All right, everybody. A great day so far. I think you'll all agree. We're going to be picking on various parts of the industry, but we're going to be talking about B2B distribution. To start with, introduction. My name is Alex Gisbert. I'm MD of a consultancy based in Spain called Share. And we help on the strategic side. We're doing an awful lot of M&A advisory in the B2B distribution space, so helping B2Bs and OTAs on supply strategy, on acquisition strategy, and certainly on a lot of M&A. What we've been discussing ahead of HEDNA today is, look, frankly, we're picking on wholesalers, right? So to set the scene, there is a lot of negative feedback in the industry over the course of the last 18 months on wholesalers. Clearly, there's a very big marquee deal between Marriott and Expedia. And what we're looking to do here is talk about what happens next. This is a really big part of the industry, about $75 billion business. Represents about 16% of all room nights in hotels around the world every night. So this is relevant to all of us. And what we're going to do today is we're going to bring up some really impressive panel, I think you'll all agree, to talk about if wholesale is going through a period of demise, what's coming next, where's the innovation coming from, and I think we've got some really good representatives of some of the new waves of business that are coming. So I'd like to introduce up onto the stage Jeff Carlson from Illusions, Lauren Atlas from HBX, Chinmai Sharma from Sabre, and Bruce Rosenberg from Hotel Planner. Very good.
Awesome.
So first of all, thank you all for coming and putting it all together. As we had some late dropout, I think Faisal unfortunately wasn't able to make it all the way from Dubai, so thank you, Jeff, for jumping in, and thank you, Bruce, for filling in for Neil, who also wasn't able to make it. So let's get started. Let's talk about B2B. Let's talk about innovation. How is B2B growing, Jeff? Is this still an area that's worth investing in and innovating in?
It is. 2023 was, we grew actually the transactional revenues tripled. And we see that in 2024, our estimate right now is that we'll more than quadruple the transactional revenues going through the platform. That's not profit, that's just volumes. And it has a lot to do with different regions of the world that are picking up fast, Asia in particular, but also the US is one of our markets that's coming. We weren't very strong up until now, until the US, and we've got some strong demand partners now coming on board.
And Lauren, are you seeing the same at HBX?
Yeah, definitely. Last year was, I think for the intermediary market, it was a 27% growth. HBX Group was 10 points above that. But I think if you just also look at all of the companies involved in the travel industry, 200 billion transacted on airline websites, I think 7 billion in non-air ancillary products on airline websites, 41 billion on credit and debit cards. I mean, there's a tremendous market out there for B2B where those types of companies and other companies want to continue being good at what they're good at and utilize other partners for whether it's hotel products, ancillaries, et cetera. So I think it's a really exciting time.
Chinmai?
Yeah, very similar. I think our transaction volume, and I had not even joined Sabre, so I'm kind of thinking where it can go now.
So now it's really going to grow.
Now it's going to take off. So 15 to 20% growth just organically. But then, interestingly, even at this event, we met with a lot of our supply partners. If you look at the value that we've been providing in terms of the gross revenue that goes to the properties, that's anywhere in the region of 35 to 45%, which is 23 over 22. And I just want to go on record to say that Sabre, everything we do is B2B. So we were doing B2B before it became sexy and started to.
And Bruce, I mean, we're talking 25, 30% plus type growth. Are you seeing the same?
Our target growth rate's 50% this year, and that's going to be over 50% last year too. So obviously it's a higher bar to jump, but we're going to do it. Mr. Strack's right in the front. He's going to hit that number. But we define we're heavy B2B players. but we define the market a lot differently than everybody else on this stage. So we have a lot of primary customers that control the end buyer, and they need services. I mean, we have a call center with 3,000 people in our call center. They need an online booking engine. They need to be integrated into APIs. So we provide a lot of services to a lot of different types of clients, like an AT&T or Walmart, the Knot, Wedding Wires, a lot of different segments where we plug in our booking platform on a B2B basis.
So the perception here, coming into this session, is B2B, everyone wants to sell direct, everyone's looking at a different, opting out of this. And I think it's worth mentioning that we did extend out, and maybe the biggest absentees on the stage today are the big two OTAs, right? So we did, HEDNA tells me, extend an invitation to them, and unfortunately they declined to participate. But what we can see from their publicly listed information is B2B is massively growing for the big two OTAs.
Yep.
In fact, it's probably an unfair estimate to assume that at least one of those OTAs is about 4 to 5 times the size of HBX in terms of B2B, in terms of B2B volume, right? So growth is happening, right? It's not a dying industry. Where are you innovating on this, Chinmai? You know, you guys, like you said, you've been doing it for longer than anyone else, frankly, but do you continue to invest in this space?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we are, our internal mission statement is to be a premier B2B platform. On one side, we service what we call the managed travel category, which is both corporate as well as leisure. And I think the good thing about our platform is that we do it in a very clear, transparent way where we have full visibility of how exactly are the rates and inventory flowing, with full reporting on both sides. So on one side, we have the managed travel category with all the agency partners, and then on the other side, we have all the supply partners, including hotel and air and car and cruise, etc. And our biggest focus right now is how do we optimize the display on the agency level so that they can consume it in the way they want to consume it. And then on the supply side, we're just making sure that we have the right content on board. GDSs haven't been, you don't think about GDS and innovation in the same sentence. I know, I'm aware of that. But there's a fair amount of work that's going on. There's a fair amount of work that's already happened. And then now we are improving our supplier APIs in a way that we've never done before, which is getting ready for retailing, merchandising, etc. And then one thing which we saw after the pandemic was that the managed travel category has done actually really well. So even though there were, articles written about the travel agencies going away, etc., but we've seen the volume ourselves, and the amount of money that's being spent in that managed travel category, both corporate and leisure, is very robust. So we see a long runway in this area.
And Lauren, what about you guys? Keep on investing in this?
Definitely. We've become quite obsessed with the connected trip, and so I'm relatively new to the hotel partner side. I kind of started on this side about 2.5 years ago, and I'm constantly learning. And when I learn more and more about all of the fragmentation that exists just within the hotel environment, whether it's hotel management companies, individual hotels, hotel chains, I think that we have a unique view, and what we're trying to really do is say, okay, keep being a large distribution partner that's trying to put hotel partners on the right shelves, but also we have attractions and transfers and car rental and 300 terabyte data lake, and how can we combine all of these things to add more value to our hotel partners, our distribution partners. And also I've become very kind of obsessed with, I'm trying to learn a lot more about a hotel P&L, because there's so many conversations around ADR and trying to understand how we can matter more to that P&L through that connected trip, right? Through providing attractions and transfers that hotels can sell. And I think probably a common topic that we've heard a lot about today and at every conference, right, is launching some fintech products. Being primarily a long-haul provider, that's a tremendous amount of volume that I think we can do a lot with as well.
Bruce?
Well, we're using a lot of artificial intelligence right now in a few places that we've deployed AI. In our customer service area, we had 300 people in customer service, which is a healthy number of people, but we've actually cut it down to 225. 60% of all of our transactions now are handled by AI. And we think we'll be able, by the end of this year, push it up to 70%. We do a lot of group business. That's the foundation of the company's groups. And we just rolled out a new AI product that a customer calls in and said, I want to book a group. So right now they're talking to an AI voice-inflected computer. So and that's going really well. So it's early days on this, so I'm not saying it's a success yet, but you listen to the phone calls and say these people have no idea that they're not talking to a human. So that's pretty cool as well. So we're also, we have 3,000 people sitting in call centers. So the next one we're going to tackle is how do we use AI in our call center environment for specific calls, and we'll see if we can keep ratcheting that up.
That's it. Jeff, where's innovation going to be happening for Illusions?
So in two different ways, we have a new long tail booking engine. It's a portal that we've taken our technology that's typically through APIs with our bigger partners, but there was an appetite with some of the large chains to say, how do we take online or bring online all these small fragmented partners that still need B2B rates? So we put together something that we believe is exciting and new, and we've just been in conversations this week with some of our bigger partners that are really excited about that. And the other one is, it's still in development, but it's called IOL Pulse, which is providing our partners with more business intelligence through a portal so that they can see more predictive analytics. And there's still a lot of questions in even my mind about what that's going to look like, but it's really providing a platform so that I think Vikram was talking about, the PBX and how do you manage all the different moving parts. And I think if with more information and more data, that would become a lot easier.
So look, I think you've all talked about growth. You're clearly doing some very smart things. There's clearly a lot of things that you're doing to optimize your business, right? But the challenge, certainly in the industry, for the B2B players such as yourselves but isn't all your business essentially replaceable by direct business and an OTA business, right? I mean, do the hoteliers in the room, do the hotel chains in the room, are you a long-term play right now? Isn't B2B going to replace it all by direct? Why do you think? Why do you think there's still a reason for your business to be around?
I think it's impossible. I mean, I worked at Hilton for 15 years. I guarantee you that Hilton, the size of the Hilton did not have the resources to cover the market and didn't want to invest in it. It's just a tremendous amount of manpower and cost. So we had active sellers at Hilton, and they did a great job for us. I was there for 15 years, and I ran that whole group, billions of dollars of revenue. Why should I do that? Right? So is there a cost for that? Sure. Was I glad to pay the cost? Absolutely. The same thing what we do as a hotel planner. We're finding markets that nobody else wants to serve, or they can't serve it particularly well. And guarantee that the Expedia and Booking and Priceline don't want to go after the markets that I'm in. They just don't. I say they with Sabre. They don't want to go after my markets. It's not their core business. But can I exist without a Hotelbeds? Not as easily. So we kind of need you over there, Lauren. So, and we need our partners. This is a partner relationship, and the market's so huge. Let's not the size of the market's just huge. So I think it's a reasonable cost to pay for distribution. That's incremental to a hotel.
Lauren, is your business got a long-term view? I mean, aren't you going to be replaced by direct booking?
I think I definitely agree. I think if we look at, first of all, as you said, OTAs are in the B2B space as well, quite hugely. There is a lot of fragmentation still out there, and I was speaking to somebody today, a friend, and he was talking about Latin America and the Middle East, for instance. So in Latin America and the Middle East, the strategy there is most distribution partners have 30 plus connectivities, and I don't mean to hotel chains, I mean to different players. And the part of the driver, his opinion, is that this is really related to credit. They really need to stretch their credit across these partners. And I'm just giving an example to show how when we think about getting business direct, getting business through OTAs, there's a lot of differentiation that you need. And that differentiation doesn't just come in, hey, I could reach that geography, but it's also about all of those metrics, length of stay, lead time, day of week, all of these things that you're looking for a good mix in. And then all of the other items that maybe aren't necessarily associated with a revenue management strategy, but definitely impact that P&L, as Bruce was saying. So again, credit, fragmentation, and others.
Jeff?
Actually, IOLX was built with the idea that we would advocate for the hotels. So there is no cost for a hotel. So in theory, we are that dream that will never be completely fulfilled, right? But the idea is we provide more connectivity to partners through one agreement at no cost, with no markup. And that's the difference with a connectivity partner. So but I think that there's space for everyone to play in the same space, and it's so big, the market, that if you decide to go with just one partner, I think you miss the boat. And it is putting all your eggs in one basket, which is scary to me. I've never worked that way.
I think actually too, looking at marketing spend is really interesting. I mean, if you look in the travel marketing spend is billions and billions of dollars by OTAs. And I think that individual hotels and motels spent something like $3 billion compared to upwards of 10, 12 by OTAs. And I think that's also, when you're looking for a mix, a differentiation, I think thinking of B2B partners as companies that don't organically compete against you, I think that also has a lot of value.
Yeah, but I think AI is going to be a game changer here as well. So I anticipate there's going to be further consolidation in the marketplace, because not everyone is going to be able to compete at the same level. Like, we're hiring developers like crazy right now just to compete. And there's so much more to do. So you have to hire the developers to do it. And if you don't have the budget, you're not going to win. So I do think there's going to be a lot of consolidation in this space. So you got to stay on top of it, and ultimately you got to compete and win against Google. Not an easy task.
Chinmai, do you still see yourselves as incremental?
Yeah, and I think one more point that I would like to add, which is slightly contradictory to what's been said, is it's not all incremental for sure, because it also depends on what's being sold and what is being powered through. So we have examples of hotel chains which have outsourced part of their connectivity to X players. How are those X players getting that inventory at the end? So it's definitely not all incremental, but at the same time, I think the world is a big place. And to Bruce's point, I mean, if everybody had the resources of getting everything brand direct, I've been on the supplier side long enough, we would have done it. And it's just like people. I mean, all of you have different tastes. You like to eat different things. You like to eat at different restaurants. You like to shop at different places. So every company is adding a different type of value, which the other parts of the ecosystem are not able to add. And that makes the whole ecosystem work.
Since there's a lot of people outside the United States at this conference, which I appreciate, but because it also just expands your viewpoint of the world. But I just came back from Europe, and I was in Morocco, and it's just a huge world, and you need partners to help fulfill the goals of your travelers, and that's where bed banks come in. They do a great job of filling in places that we're just not going to have staff. We're just not going to do it.
Yeah, and especially in managed category, for example, we see it all the time. I mean, the corporate travel category is a very well-defined space with very specific requirements with duty of care, etc., which you just can't leave it open. So there are requirements which mandate along the process.
Okay, so that's fair, and I think you the four of you put together fairly compelling. But one of the things that hotel chains are consistently now, and this is definitely the topic and the trend that everyone's discussing. I think we've all been bombarded over the last 18 months by new models and new trends here. But one of the big buzzwords of the industry, I think we'll talk about rate parity later on, but let's talk about transparency, right? One of the concepts that now is, hotel chains are saying, well, great, if you are so incremental, show me the names of the people who made the booking. Who are the agents that made the booking? Give me real visibility on, don't ask me to believe you're incremental, show me you're incremental. So as a business, let's start with you, Jeff. How does your business take on the challenge of being transparent to prove your incrementality?
Sure. So actually our business model is that we do send the name of the buyer down with the reservations. So in that sense, it's always been that way. We struggle a little bit with some of our connectivity where they can't consume that, but where they can, we do. And with some of our partners, they can actually control it by channel. So our idea is to really be an advocate for the hotel so that they have full control, they can see who it is, and if there's a bad actor, that they have control to turn on and turn off.
So let's play that back. So what you're saying is hotels are able to go into your portal, switch on and off the demand they want, and see who made the booking through your portal?
Their CRS. So with some of our partners, the CRS will allow them to go in and tick off and turn on and off the connectivity. But to your point, there's a dashboard coming in Q1, which is now, that will allow them more access to switch on and off, because they want that. All of our partners want control. We have today, when we identify a bad actor, we shut them down, but the hotel can't do that unless they have some of our CRS partners, like Synexus is one, that they can actually do it on their own.
Okay. Bruce, where are you guys on transparency?
Well, transparency is overrated. No. So it's.
You're going to sit over there.
So I was just thinking, like, if I was working at Coca-Cola and I wanted to be transparent about the magic formula for Coke, I don't think that was ever going to happen. So we've had our partners come to us. I'll put quotations on it. They said, we need to see every single one of your customers. You know, all that. We have literally thousands of customers. And we said, like, no, we're not going to, because then you're just going to cherry pick the ones that do the most business. So sorry, we just can't do that. So there has to be some layer of separation and some confidentiality. Plus, a lot of our partners, the deals with our partners, that you can't share this information with anybody else. So, you know, we try to be fair and have good intent and be positive with everybody. We're not going to just share everything. I just think that that's a business mistake.
This is not new for you, right?
No, we've been doing it. No.
GDSs have been transparent right from the word go?
Right from the beginning, yeah. So that's a big part of what we do, and I think that's also part of the reason why a lot of suppliers, they do want to work with us. So there's like I said, full transparency, both on the demand side. So we do have content on GDS Core. We're approaching nearly 1 million hotels, which are exactly on the Sabre GDS. But then there are different parts of the world where they might require other content. And over the last few years, we've started to aggregate content from some very select OTA and bed bank partners. But in all those cases, the OTA and the bed bank partners know exactly which agency is being sold to. And then the agencies also know where exactly is it coming from. And in our new APIs, we're actually going to make it even more transparent, you know, down to email addresses. So if the agency partner wants to pass it on to the supply partner, we will facilitate it.
2 out of 3. Lauren?
Yep. So I think probably our view is that there's probably not a lot of companies out there who are going to completely publish client lists. I think that over time, we have worked very hard to actually show specific data, specific source regions, et cetera, at the chain level, so that chains can really get a grasp as to the metrics that their reservations that are going via Hotelbeds, exactly what they're producing. I know that we have some kind of individual partnerships where we're diving a little bit deeper. Our view is
does that mean that you have partnerships where you will be transparent?
Together, to talk about clients together and where there's that value-add distribution.
Right.
I would say overall, I think that, you know, we're a very messy industry in general, and I think that the topic of transparency is also one of just understanding, of really understanding each business and how it's working and how it can add value, and not just assuming that one company is transparent or another, really trying to understand it. One more thing that I do just want to mention is that I know that, and I think we'll get into the rate, if we can say rate parity.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We really splice up the different distribution channels, even within individual customers, and set up individual credentials based off of how our clients distribute. And it's not just that we trust what those clients are telling us. We actually proactively monitor searches to our system. We receive 4 billion searches a day. We timestamp those searches to see which ones are echoes, which ones are unique, and depending on how those are performing, we're actually using that data to show where there are or are not bad actors, regardless of, and that's proactively, like regardless of whether or not it's generating a BRG.
And let's talk about bad actors, because we'll talk about the new stuff. But there is this dark cloud, right, which has had over bed banks, wholesalers, B2B, which is parity, breakage, rate leakage. Depending on where you sat in the world, you're allowed to say certain phrases, and so not. Bruce, are you in control of rate parity? Do you know where your rates are going?
I would say yes to that, but do we get surprises from time to time? Yes, we do. We have bots. We watch the metas very, very closely, and if we think someone's on abusive, we just turn off any rate that we think shouldn't be sold to them, and that's done proactively. We don't ask the customer, or we don't ask the partner. We just turn it off. Then we pick up the phone and call them and say, like, what's going on here? It looks like you're kind of breaking parity, because we don't want to deal with the hassles. Like Lauren will call me and say, what are you doing? Don't want to get that phone call. Yeah. So considering the volume that we do, which is significant, the number of cases I have per month or couple a month. So we do a really good job at that. It's not easy, and again, that's where technology comes in. So you're going to monitor your customer, your contracting comes in, but you're still going to watch people.
Jeff, are you guys in control?
We are. So we did over 2023, we looked at our largest partners where we do our policing together with them, and we were at 99%, and that wasn't good enough. We're always striving for 100%, but I do believe that it's a goal, and it's a goal that you always have to get closer to it. There are lots of reasons why bad actors creep in. They're very creative.
Yeah.
So when you think you've got everything under control, but when I talk about it, out of like 40,000 bookings, you find 2 or 3, and that although we still have to take it seriously, we shut them down. It's still, for me, it's success compared to some of the stories that when I've spoken to some of the other chains and they tell me what their goal is. It's much higher than where I feel like we're at.
Yeah, I feel the real situation is quite different, because at my previous company, which was RateGain, we had a big pricing intelligence vertical, and to be honest, it's a complete mess. And I think even though the supply partners do want more control, sometimes it's outside the hands of the partners who are distributing, because it's affiliates after affiliates, and then it just gets spread out.
But ironically, and Chinmai, I was talking to a global hotel chain just in December, and they were saying when we analyzed our rate leakage issues in December, 20% of them were through connectivity distribution partners, and 80% of them were from our franchisees.
Yeah.
Right. The reality now is that most of these chains are getting brand.com's undercut more by their own franchisees than actually any distribution.
That's true.
And I think that's a story that has developed over the course of the last 2 years, certainly. But you probably saw that with certainly in your former role and when you're looking at pricing intelligence. It's interesting to see that it's the chains themselves that have their issues with their own.
But it's the owner of the hotel. It tells me they have to pay the mortgage. They got to pay their staff, so they got to do whatever it takes to pay the bills. And they will break chain policy, but they'll have to do it in a way that they can cover themselves as best as possible. But they'll absolutely do it. They don't really care what the ivory tower says.
Jeff, you touched on this on data. You guys are running a different value proposition. How when you're thinking about forward and partnership, you've talked about transparency, you're in control of your rates, incremental distribution. There is obviously a real hunt now for data automation, and hotel chains want to harvest that data and do something with it. What role does data play for you guys in your roadmap? How are you working with data, Chinmai, on empowering the supply partners that you're working with?
Yeah, no, that's a big focus. I mean, one thing that we realize is that we're sitting actually on a lot of data, because not only do we have hotels, but we have air, car, cruise, and rail, etc. So we have different parts of that ecosystem. And Sabre in aggregate, along with Sabre Hospitality, we power a fair amount of travel. So that just gives us more visibility into what's going on. And we have some reporting, which is helpful. We also partner with companies like Amadeus and TravelClick, where we provide some of our data to them, which they eventually provide to the hotels. So we are looking at it both from an internal perspective on how do we optimize our value proposition, and then all our legacy architecture has now moved to the cloud. So we are completely on Google Cloud as far as the lodging business is concerned. And just with that move, we just had to make a lot of enhancements, which now makes it easier for us to consume and absorb data. So everything, including shopping, booking volume, pretty much every transaction, now we can analyze it a lot better. And in all our discussions with the supply partners now, we are happy to start sharing that information. Hopefully we'll monetize some of it, but that's not the main intent. We just want the ecosystem to work.
And Lauren, are you seeing the same? Do your partners require the data from you?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want it. We are supplying it. I think similar, we have a 300 terabyte data lake, as mentioned, and 4 billion searches a day. So we're taking all this. We've already, I think about a year and a half ago, we produced a real-time dashboard that hotel chains can go into and see all of those metrics. And then as well, for distribution partners, we also, and I think this is important for hotels to know, we also have data that we already provide, trying to match the correct hotel to the correct client, right? So really finding an opportunity where there's a gap. So that's already been live, I think, for about 2 years.
And it's funny, I was talking to, do they really use it? Because a lot of revenue managers say it's great to have data, and then they just keep looking at their own reports, right? Do they genuinely look at it? Because everyone sells this data, and I always ask the chain, say, do you have anyone to read this? No. But we really want the data, right? And you guys are killing yourselves on producing this data, and then the chains and the hotels are going, well, we wanted it, but there's no one around to read it, and it's not in my cube, and it doesn't fit in with my database, et cetera, et cetera.
That is true.
Do they really consume it, or do they just think it's a pretty PDF that you can show them a quarterly business?
There's definitely light at the end of that tunnel, and the only reason there is light at the end of the tunnel is just because of technological, transformation. Because 5-10 years, and I grew up in revenue management, so we used to churn a lot of reports manually. The reason why things are improving now is just because better solutions are available, which are able to aggregate a lot of that and give it in bite-sized information. So that's really, really encouraging.
Bruce, what would you say with supply? That's going to be minimum requirement now? You're going to have a data value proposition for your partners?
We already have that, but I think you're right, is that the people don't really use it. So we spend a lot of time and money generating reports. We say, here it is, and most times we don't hear much back from it. But we use it to action it ourselves. So we're looking at this and say, what do we do with pricing? What's our next? How do we take pricing for attributes? What do we do at our level, on Hotel Planner with our partners? How can we do some more attribute pricing? So we're looking at the data ourselves, and that's where the real value is the internal.
And Jeff, you talked about launching a data product. You have high hopes that people are going to read yours better than anyone else's?
It's still under development, but what I do agree with is what you said, is if the data isn't telling me, isn't recommending some change in what I'm doing today, then it's interesting, but it's not helpful.
Right.
And we have so much data today and so much information that unless I'm getting a clear action step from that, I personally don't like too much data, because it just, it makes me walk away and come back and think about what do I need to do right now to make either more money or be more efficient, whatever. That's our goal is to give it in a way that it will infer a recommended action.
So the other challenge clearly for the B2B that you'll hear from hotels all of the time is, okay, great, thanks for the data, the transparency, but frankly, if I don't give you the cheapest rate, you just don't sell, right? And you hear that from the OTAs. They say they're fantastic, but unless I load a fantastic offer, it doesn't make a difference. And that obviously has a massive effect on the ADR that hotels are able to drive from you guys, and essentially the cost of distribution. Do you always have to have the cheapest rate, Bruce, or can you live, or do you have incremental distribution that allows you to work with?
We never believe in we don't have a Walmart. I mean, one of our customers, but we don't have the Walmart strategy. It's price. We just don't. Sure. Do we expect to have a level playing field, some level of parity? Yeah, we do, or else the business shifts. I mean, we're a multi-source engine, so we have dozens of feeds coming into the systems, and we see our partners playing with the price all the time. So a guy that we did $1 million on last month will go down to 200,000 because the margin shrank. And guess what? The business went somewhere. My business was fine because I have other partners. So it's going to continue to happen. Do I need the lowest price? No, we don't believe in selling at the lowest price because we have high levels of service.
Good. Jeff, do you need the cheapest price?
I don't want it. So we're, again, advocates for the hotels. So in my business, I just want the hotel a level playing field, rate parity, but my goal is to reduce the margins over time. So if we can, and I'm not talking about in a year, but over years, if a hotel group is moving all their distribution to dynamic and to lower cost distribution channels, then in theory, you don't need to keep doing the same margins that you had over the last 20 years.
I can see why you're growing. Lauren?
I mean, this goes back to my P&L. I think it's more about the cost of distribution and versus an ADR conversation or a rate conversation. I mean, what do you consider, when you're looking at cost of distribution, are you looking at a list of partners and the ADR each one of them is bringing in? Are you looking at commission? Are you looking at the marketing cost, which is typically falling in a different place on a P&L? And I think all of these, this is the conversation that frankly is much more interesting to have and really drives much more towards your profitability. And I think that that's the best conversation to have versus just ADR. I think that's what really matters.
You're right. I mean, there's an awful lot of chains that are just not looking at B2B distribution on a fully costed basis, right? If you do payments by bank transfer or BTG or whatever it is, rather than using virtual credit cards, people don't take those into account, right? Chinmai, can you live without the cheapest price?
Yeah, no, I think the good thing about the GDS is, at least for Sabre, I mean, we consider ourselves as a premium rate channel. It's not something that we are driving. It's just driven by the agencies and the supply partners. So we did some analysis at the end of last year, which was just a few weeks ago. So on a nightly basis, the rate premium that we provide is nearly $30 compared to the industry average by chain scale. So on a 2.5 length of stay, that becomes like $70, $80. So it's significant. But it's also driven by what the supply partners are negotiating with the agency partners. And we work with agencies like Virtuoso, Internova, et cetera, where the reservation value is really significant. And then Sabre, at least in the lodging space, we are pretty significant. I mean, the amount of hotels we sell is more than the other two GDSs combined.
Yeah.
So it's significant.
So one of the things that, it's funny as I talk to different various business that we are going through a real moment now where everything is being redefined, reclassified, and the terminologies in the business are completely different. Right? People are bed banks and wholesalers and B2Bs and marketplaces and tech companies and every one of us in every one of our business. The other day I came across a big travel group that defines businesses, and they said, we have something called switch platforms. And I said, are they switches or platforms? They said, we don't really know, so we're just going to call them switch platforms. Right? Which I really enjoyed, right? They just said, we'll just chuck names at them and see what sticks, right? Which I really enjoyed. Bruce, you've got an innovative way of dealing with supply partners. How do you guys define yourselves? When you say, what's the name?
It's a good question. So we're a reservation platform, but I got to tell you, we just bought a company in France that does trade show advertising and publications. So that's getting us more in the media space. We just bought a registration company that does registrations for events like this. So the value of the business, and the business is expanding into different channels because we see the need, we see a way to tie it all together for our partners.
Reservation platform. Lauren, how do you guys define yourselves now?
Well, if I say one word, that'll be the box you put us in forever, right? And
that's what I'm looking for.
All of the strategies.
That's it.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to say one of the magic words. We are a B2B ecosystem. Let me define ecosystem here. So we can actually sell multiple products to multiple partners, whether that be hotel partners, ancillary partners, attractions transfers, and distribution partners. And we actually even have a direct hotel booking engine and marketing platform as well for hotels to do direct business. So just to put in a mix on the B2B side, but this is what we can be for partners. It's a lot. Yeah.
Lauren from the B2B ecosystem. Okay. Jeff, what
That's a new one.
Oh, wow. So
is anyone else called HBX, B2B ecosystem? I think that's a good.
Just throw an X on the back.
I like the ecosystem part.
Are you a B2B ecosystem?
So that isn't the terminology I use. So I always tell a customer we're a connectivity platform for B2B. So we want to make your life easier. Where I find hotel groups struggle all the time is keeping up. And the resources that they need to do integrations and everything else, we take that off their plate. So we do all the heavy lifting on our side. So that's how I look at it.
So you're a connectivity platform.
So we're a connectivity platform where we do have switch functionality, but it's not the core of our business, but we have it. And then we have connectivity where they can connect to many operators with one.
I guess the risk is that people say you're like a SiteMinder or a Disco, right?
Those are, but SiteMinder and Disco, yeah, so those are our friends. So we work together, because connectivity, as we all know, one connection doesn't solve the problem, right? We all need multiple. So we expand the connectivity options that they currently have.
I think we added a lot of clarity to that
Yeah,
question.
right?
Yes.
Rudy, got it?
Chinmai, do you have a clearer definition? that we can,
Ending with you on purpose.
I think so. It's definitely clearer. So we've always been a B2B platform, but after that rate analysis that we just did, we're calling ourselves a premier B2B
a
platform.
premier B2B.
Yes,
You just want to charge more, I know.
Yeah.
But I think you can empathize with the industry, right? Yeah. That I think the learning here clearly is every time you meet someone who tells you they're from a B2B world, there's an extra 2 or 3 minutes that you now need, right? To say, so just run me through again, are you a connectivity platform, but you're not a channel manager, but you are a thing, but you're an ecosystem. Well, here we go. You know, I think there is definitely, it's incredibly difficult. Every conversation needs a small preamble.
On the catch-up call with Leanne, we were joking that every company should have a pronoun. What do you identify as?
Yes.
And I think HEDNA can play a key role there. Yes.
Am I allowed one more question? Yeah, but we want to go to the next. Oh, sorry, okay. Look, thank you so much, I think. Hopefully we haven't given you too much of a hard time. But you're all solving for a similar situation, which is B2B. Yeah. There's been an incredible amount of solidarity between you. But when I kick off and say, look, there isn't enough space for the definitions, never mind for the amount of distribution, right? There isn't enough space for all of us. You know, you've got 4 very, very different approaches to solving for this $75 billion market. So, Chinmai, let's start with you. What makes you guys unique in the context of the OTAs that are not on the stage, of the connectivity teams that are not on the stage? What makes you guys unique versus, and why do you think, you know, really you're the right bet for B2B distribution?
Yeah, I mean, the key things would be transparency and control. I think that's something that would differentiate us. And being on the supply side, I know all the pain points that I've been through, so don't want to go there. And then I think the beauty of our platform is down to the terminal and the PCC level, we have full control. Okay. So currently we are in the managed travel category, but you know, we can easily get into other things.
So transparency and control.
Yeah.
Lauren?
We are the largest directly connected distribution network, and yet we're small enough that we're absolutely willing and able to customize your distribution strategy.
That's fair. Illusions?
We don't charge anything to the hotels, and I think that's big. I mean, I come from the hotel side, so it's a free augmentation of your connectivity to many players with no markup. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer when I look at, and that differentiates us from most of the other platforms.
And Bruce?
And we're bringing the customer to the hotels. So we try to control the end user, either direct or through partners.
Thank you very much. Look, we're going to take some Q&A, but I think you've made a fairly strong defense of the B2B space. B2B is not dead. You're all growing, so congratulations on all of that. And hopefully that spurs up a little bit of debate in the room for the next 2 days. Thank you. We have some questions. So if you can, we've got some bright lights here, but if you can raise your hand, we will put a mic somewhere near you so you can ask a question. No questions.
Joe Strack, ask a question. Let's call on people.
We're standing in the way of happy hour, so.
We have any questions on session?
Hi. Thanks for that session, and I think we probably should have a follow-on hotelier panel just on this topic. I noticed there isn't a hotelier on your panel.
Yeah, you know, Vikram, this was a big topic of discussion in the preamble, and I think the concept was this was the audition, and this was about the hotels being able to form an opinion. I think that was the plan. But go ahead.
Got it. Understood. So maybe we do it at the next HEDNA, and then you guys can ask us questions. So I think the question, the things about transparency from a hotelier perspective, they weren't really convincing answers, frankly. They were just, you can't really have it both ways. You can't say that the hotels don't have the resources and the manpower to go after every account, every market, but at the same time, not give us visibility and say, well, no, you don't need that because you'll go after them. So it can't be both ways. I think and same thing goes with parity. It's, if you're going to give us loss scores where you're losing to other partners, where you're not competitive, I heard the words level playing field. The question I have is, are you going to give us your win scores? And I think that's a yes or no answer.
Let's go left to right.
I'll tell you from a brand standpoint, I'm more comfortable sharing my client list with a brand customer because I'm really confident in my position with customers. I'm talking about my other areas of my co-opetition, which can do whatever they want, right? So they don't have the same level of constraints. And I think we do really well, my multi-supply, in dealing with the rates that we're given and doing what we can to obviously provide great service and add margins and markup.
Chinmai, will you give Wyndham your win scores?
Yes.
I did mention that I'm relatively new to the hotel side, hopefully, so can somebody define win score for me exactly?
Vikram, what are you looking for from Lauren in your win scores?
I don't have it should come on in a second. What I'm defining is, when we talk about sort of where you're losing, where you're uncompetitive with another partner, competitor that's in your space, say, for example, and you tell us, hey, they're undercutting us, they're undercutting you, and so we're losing.
Yes.
Right? And
So I think you guys call it meet, beat, lose.
Yeah.
Meet, beat, lose, BML,
Okay.
there's...
Yeah, that's it. Expedia call it meet, beat. It's
Yeah.
just where you've done the rate shops and you're $20 cheaper than everyone else. But traditionally B2Bs are good at saying I'm out on price. They're not. No one picks up the phone and says, "Hey, I'm got too good a price." I think that's
really
what you're
too
asking.
good.
Got it,
That's
got
exactly
it.
what I'm...
Okay, so actually at hotel levels, we already do. We call it a pickup report, and we will actually share with hotels where we are picking up so well that we recommend that they actually increase their rate with us.
Very good, Jeff.
So we don't mark up the rates, and when we have rate parity, you will, the only time that we have an issue where someone's underselling that is if they're selling below the net rates that the hotel is giving out, which can happen. But it's not something that well, yeah, we do. We have looked at that with one player recently, but normally it doesn't happen because we're not marking up the rates. It's normally not an issue in our world.
Good hotelier question. Go ahead.
Yes, so Best Western BWH Hotel Group, except for Chinmai, can I get a show of hand how many of you will commit to providing us a dashboard? Because I heard people saying, hey, you want this information, but you don't use it. We at my brand, we look at differently. By you providing this information to us allows me to go to these uncertified OTAs and say, you're sourcing this partner, I don't need to go direct with you. Continue to do, and that way actually you help us with rate competitiveness, you help us with rate parity, because we know what rates we're giving you. And if there is some disturbance in that process, we know where it's coming from and we can work with you directly. So show of hand, I want to see commitment until the end of this year. Doesn't need to be next month, 6 months from now, but at least at the end. If we need to get into customized conversation, open to that. But I think this industry is going into I think we're going into a path where transparency needs to be at the forefront of any partnership. And likewise, you're sharing with us. I'm more than glad to share with you what I have so that we can work together. And to me, no disrespect to Marriott, I don't need to go the Marriott way and do some exclusivity with another OTA because I'm having so many problems on my distribution. I think if we can consolidate distribution, it's a better for both of us. Does that make sense?
Sure. Show of hands.
Are you asking for a dashboard of data that you can access at any time?
You got it.
You should already have one from us, so yes.
I do have it, but there is need more information.
Okay,
I'm
fair.
only seeing half side half glass full, right?
Cool, okay.
So, until mid of last year, I was a CEO of a wholesaler, and Matt Teixeira is a big consumer of data, so he will read it. He will read. He's beaten me up repeatedly over the last 8 years on that, so I guarantee.
Miss you at that company, by the way.
Oh, that we do. That we do.
Very good. Any other questions on? Is this a question here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Hey guys, so great, thanks for the info. I'm gonna kind of probe a little bit more into transparency and just provide a little context as to some of the challenges that we're facing and why transparency is important. And a really frequent challenge that we see is just misutilization of rate and or margin manipulation in downstream. And I think a great example of that is kind of the ambiguity around opaque, semi-opaque, and package. Like those are, each has its own definition, and I think from a brand perspective, we look at package as bundled with another service. And I'm throwing a guess of percentage, but I would say probably 60 to 70% of our issues that come from violations in the downstream come from misutilization of package, where it's being sold unbundled through opaque or semi-opaque channels. And so we want the transparency in the channels in the ecosystem. What rates are you taking and who are you giving them to? And do we have an ability to help mandate these channels should not get certain types of rates? Because the intent of the product and the pricing strategy is to pass savings to consumer versus increasing margin for the ecosystem, right? So it's the reasoning behind the ask is not because we want to go out and sign them all directly and take that business away from you. It's so that we can get better visibility and control of the problems that are coming in the ecosystem. So I guess the question there is really, are there things that we can be doing to get more visibility and to get more transparency in the space?
Well, I think we do that today. So from hotel planner side, you can turn off and turn on rate plans, instantly. And we do that with a lot of partners. So, and partners say we don't want certain organizations to get any rates at all. We do that. And a lot of times people will only let us sell specific rates in specific channels. So we have the sophistication to manage all that. Are we transparent with partners? Sure. So if someone asks me, we're going to do the best we can to accommodate that request. Absolutely. There's no reason not to. But I agree with you. It is a definitional problem as well as an execution issue. If it's not clarity between the hotelier or the bed bank or the other partner and what we're doing with all the customers that we have too. So,
Lauren, you expanded on this. You had this pre-segmented distribution.
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of mistakes, and I think it really blew up in like 2018, 2019. And we lost a lot of partners. I feel like I've been on like a 2-year parade of saying this even now. And I just don't think we took distribution as seriously back then. And we spent most of 2019 investing in this technology, proactive technology partnership with RateGain, et cetera, to actually track, as I said, track those, what we call echoes. There's this fantastic image we have of this crazy web of all of these, clients, kind of their searches and how they interact. We need to have really open conversations, and I know that you guys are absolutely more than willing. You probably initiate them as to how do you, package is pretty clear cut for me, but how do you define opaque versus not? And we have all of our distribution completely centralized. And why I think that's important is that it's not in the hands of the individual market managers or individuals. And having that centralized and defined in line with your definition is important. I also want to have really open, kind of challenging, interesting conversations as well as to, are the channels that we defined 10 years ago still the channels that we're using today? The terminology, the bucket you put me in 10 years ago or somebody else in 10 years ago, is that still what we should be defining today?
And I think that's exacerbated by the M&A activity post-pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, so today you've got OTAs who over 50% of their transactions are B2B. You've got retail businesses that are now selling on API, but also, or you've got B2C businesses that have acquired a B2B bed bank and are now doing both. You know, Hotel Planners, a travel group. You know, you're a group, you're events. You're not one thing, right?
No.
But what, Daniel, I think I think Daniel's focus is very much on, hey, look, this is a problem, and it's about definitions, and it seems that everyone seems to have their own little opinion on definitions, and that seems to be the origin of the issue. I've been signing global hotel chain deals for 15 years, right? And I think the only contract that I thought was, there's one contract that with a big global chain represented here today, and it feels to me like asking hotels to keep up with B2B versus B2C versus B2B2C versus marketplace versus CUG versus whatever is completely unfeasible. Because once you've defined it, someone will buy someone else and you won't even know, and Hopper will be a tech company, and some channel manager will be a bed bank and whatever, right? But it feels to me like the definitions need to come from the hotel, Daniel, and what this hotel chain was saying is, this is the flight plus hotel rate plan. I don't care if you're B2B or B2C or CUG or whatever, but I think the onus is on the hotels to not try and call it opaque or B2B, like take it down one level and make it as simplistic as possible and call it the flight plus hotel or the flight plus car rate plan. There's no argument at that point, right? And I think everyone tries to, because there's a legacy of job roles and locations and responsibilities, there's a legacy, I'm B2B, I'm B2C, I'm opaque, I'm not opaque. I would suggest that there's an opportunity going forward of the hotel chains to say, this is a hotel rate plan for hotel-only sales. I can't remember if you're B2B or B2C, that's kind of not my problem. But I think both sides are probably got a role to play here on the definition.
That's a good topic.
No.
I think that's a great summary. And I think that in all the years that I've been coming to HEDNA, and I want to say, Vikram, thank you so much for acknowledging the content of this conference and this exercise that we've done here today. Just as one takeaway, thank you, Daniel, for asking the question. I think that if we can agree, we might have been solving a problem here today, right? If we could agree that hotels could define what that product needs to be.
Use case.
Yes. Then we can all be talking, we can all be holding hands and going in the same direction, because that's when perhaps this issue of transparency is not so much about transparency. It's more about, here's the product, here's the customer that it's for. And if you can assure me that this is who you're going to sell this to.
And for this motive.
And for this motive, then we're all good. I think this discussion right now that we've had has been worth this conference for me, at least.
Yes.
Well done, Bruce. Great, some really, really good questions. Thank you, Jana, as well. And thank you, Daniel. Any other questions on that? Thank you very much. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.